So this is the Insta360 Go Ultra, and here are the pros and cons of using this camera. First up is the form factor. So you can use this as an action camera, but also you can kind of use it like a point and shoot camera. And also you can detach the camera module and you can attach it to this magnetic lanyard that I have on. That makes the camera super versatile because you can use it as a vlogging camera, or you can take the camera module out and just use it just by itself. And because the back is magnetic, you can stick it to any magnetic surfaces. And another thing that I like about this camera as well is the battery life. So there were times where we went on trips and I vlogged the entire day using this camera, and I still had some battery left because this unit comes apart in two pieces. The camera itself has its own battery as well as the action pod. I love how I can take this camera out and not even have to worry about running out of battery. Alright, so also with the new update, we can now shoot in log format. So what the iLog is basically it lets you shoot in a flat color profile without any contrast, saturation baked into the video. So you end up with a footage that doesn't have any processing, so you can freely color grade it however you like. It gives you flexibility in color grading and also the ability to color match the Go Ultra footage with footage from other cameras. I recently made a video about that and you're free to check it out. And another advantage that I didn't expect from this camera at all is that you can actually connect Bluetooth microphones to this, including this DJI microphone. So right now we're connected on the mic 2. Right now you're hearing me through the DJI Mic Mini. So you can connect the microphone to the camera even when the camera is actually out from the pod, and you can still have a live preview, which is something that DJI's own Nano can't even do. Very strange, but it's a welcome addition. I can use my Mic Mini and Mic 2 with the Go Ultra. And another thing that I like about this camera is that it has a stop and start record. So that means you can actually continue recording from a previously recorded video in the camera. All right, let's pick a video that I shot yesterday. There is a record button at the bottom left. You can actually continue recording. So how that's useful is that if you ever wanted to make like a montage without having to edit using your phone or an app, you could use that stop and start record function to basically make a vlog in the camera without having to edit it using an external app. I actually shot an entire video demonstrating how it's done, and you can check it later. So speaking of not needing to edit, in this camera you can also choose different color profiles. Alright, so this is glow, selfie, vivid, NC film, NC2 film, CC film, and CC2 film. Oh my god, it's so cold, bro. Alright, so those are the pros that I found with this camera. What about the cons? What about the bad stuff? What about the spicy stuff? Alright, so one of the few annoyances that I have with this camera is that sometimes it could get quite slow. Alright, so when you hit the shutter button, there's a little bit of a lag, and after you're done recording, it takes a while to write that stuff on the SD card. And when you go to preview the video, it plays that little loading screen. It's not instant. Maybe that's just because I got used to the DJI camera so much. It's not really a deal breaker, but you know, I noticed it, so it's worth mentioning. So this camera is not really great in low light. I know there is a pure video mode meant for low light scenarios, but all it really does is adding more digital processing to the video. This front button does not work when the camera is on the pod. It works when it's in a standalone mode, but for some reason, when you put it on the pod, it just does not work. Because I know that some people are right-handed and may hold the camera like this, and your thumb is already close to the button, so it just makes sense to press the button to make it work. But in this case, it does not, so it's something that I noticed and it's worth pointing out. It uses a different mounting system than the other Insta360 cameras. The reason why it's different is that this bottom mount on the main action pod is actually the same size as the camera. But since this is not the exact same shape as the Go 3 and Go 3S, you end up needing different mounting system just for this camera. Alright, we're gonna try to speed run because it's very cold, I'm losing the sunlight, but this has no internal memory. I know you could insert your own SD card, but sometimes if you forget to bring an SD card, then you can't use the camera. So yeah, remember to bring an SD card at all times when using this camera. So another thing that that I haven't heard anyone talk about is the actual texture of the camera. It has a nice smooth velvet texture to the touch, but I always have to be conscious about how I'm holding the camera because I don't want to drop it eventually. I don't know, like it's one of those things that you can't really explain unless you actually have the camera in your hands. So another annoyance that I found is that when you take out the camera out of its pod and just use the camera just by itself, it actually uses a different setting than what you have here unless you actually set it. Like, it sounds like I'm being very nitpicky, but there was one time that I was out vlogging with my family. When I used the camera just like this, it actually used its default setting instead of using the one in the action pod. So that way, like, I didn't really get the shot that I wanted. And I played around with the settings and found out that you can actually set the standalone camera to use the same settings when it's out of the pod. And another annoyance that I have with this camera is that, remember the stop and start function that I talked about earlier? It wasn't as smooth as I expected it to be. You know, instead of doing all those steps, it would have been better if we're just able to stop and start recording using the physical button. Keep the playback there in case you want to keep recording from that playback. Let's go back to the live preview using one of the physical buttons. I actually filmed an entire vlog using the stop and start function, but it was just a hassle because I had to constantly be pressing on the screen, but like I can't reach it properly because it's too low. I know that they probably didn't pay much attention to that because not many people use that function anyway, but you know, it's not a very smooth process for me. It's not a deal breaker. It's just something that I noticed and I haven't seen any people talk about that. All right, so my biggest issue with the Go Ultra is actually not the camera itself, but the fact that you need to download an app to your phone to activate the camera. I've talked about this in my other video before. So when you download the app, it actually wants to track your activities in the other apps that you have in your phone. I was like, man, why do you need to do that? I just want to take some photos and videos with this camera, nothing else. And this is not a problem with Insta360. This is a problem with DJI as well. I seriously cannot find a good explanation as to why it's becoming a standard in these tiny cameras these days. And I don't like it. You know, compared to my mirrorless cameras like the Sony a51 and a7C, I just turned on the camera and I was just shooting right away. You know, Insta360 and DJI make great products, but man, I'm getting sick of this method. All right, so those are the pros and cons when using the Insta360 Go Ultra. Now, what do you think about this tiny camera? Were there any pros or cons that I missed? Let me know in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next video.